Empire.
On today's episode of the Football Jones podcast, we're going to talk to a small town kid who made it big. What's up, everybody? It's Mike Jones. Thanks for coming back for another episode. You can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. And man, we got a lot to get to today. Our guest of the day is someone that I'm very familiar with, Wyatt Teller, offensive guard for the Cleveland Browns, also the highest rated interior lineman, one of the top 4 highest rated players in the NFL as a whole, according to Pro Football Focus. And I don't know what you think about all the analytics and everything like that, but there is a lot of people in talent evaluation ranks that do put stock into the grades that those guys receive. A lot of former NFL coaches, scouts, players associated with Pro Football Focus that come up with these grades. But Wyatt Teller, real success story, a kid who grew up in a small town in Virginia, went to college at Virginia Tech, drafted by the Bills, wasn't a great fit there, found a new home in Cleveland, and really blossomed this year. So I'm going to talk to Wyatt, and I've got a special guest who is also joining us for that episode. But first, before we get to that, just want to talk about some of the headlines going on around the NFL this week. First off, J.J. Watt to the Arizona Cardinals. A bit of a surprise there. Obviously, as you know, he was on the free agent market after coming to an agreement with Houston Texans that they were going to part ways. But a lot of the talk had him going to Green Bay. You know, he's from Wisconsin. Going to Buffalo, another contender. Going to Pittsburgh, where his 2 brothers play. Or maybe even there was some talk about Cleveland, although it seemed like that wasn't really going anywhere. And maybe Tennessee Titans, because they needed pass rushing help. And he's got familiarity with Mike Vrabel. However, yesterday, the surprise news broken by J.J. Watt himself. Fantastic presentation. He tweeted a picture of himself wearing a Cardinals shirt, working out. He said, "Sources, me." So there you have it. Arizona Cardinals. Surprised by that move because of the fact that I felt like somewhere like Green Bay, you know, when early there was some talk about Tampa even, but there was another team that he could have gone to, even Buffalo, closer to contending than the Cardinals. But the Cardinals, the reason I think why he chose them, there are a number of reasons. Well, one, they gave him a 2-year, $31 million deal with $23 million guaranteed, so he's going to be making good money. Second, he's got familiarity with Vance Joseph, who had been one of his coaches there in Houston. And also DeAndre Hopkins, former longtime Texans teammate, now with Arizona, had been really working hard to recruit J.J. Watt. And so he winds up going there. Does this make Arizona a contender? I don't know. They've got a really tough division there. Obviously, you need pass rushing help. They've got talented pass rushers. They dealt with some injury last year. But, you know, adding another one to the mix would be good, especially in a division where you've got Jimmy Garoppolo, Russell Wilson, and Matthew Stafford. I still think most of the growth that they need on that team is on the offensive side of the ball with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury taking another leap. But you need a strong defense. I think it makes the Cardinals intriguing, but I don't know if it makes them a contender. Speaking of Russell Wilson, he's been in the news last couple weeks since the Super Bowl because he talked about being frustrated about being hit too much. And last week, The Athletic published an article that pulled back the curtain on a rift between Wilson and head coach Pete Carroll, general manager John Schneider, that he wasn't getting the input that he wanted. Now, from everything I can gather, you know, there was all kinds of rumblings about, okay, is he going to be traded and everything. Talking to people who are familiar with both camps, both of them say they don't think Russell Wilson is going anywhere. Now, Wilson's agent put out relayed a report through Adam Schefter last week saying he wants to stay in Seattle. He has not demanded a trade, But if they were to trade him, he named several teams, including the Cowboys and the Saints and the Raiders and the Dolphins. Now, I don't see any of that happening. From what I've been told, Seahawks are dug in their commitment to him. They did give him input on their offensive coordinator hire, Shane Waldron, who had been with the Rams. Wilson reportedly sat down and talked with him, gave the thumbs up. They hired him. I do think that there will be a talk between the sides and that they will kind of smooth this thing out. They do need to do a better job of protecting him. They do need to get more weapons on offense. I imagine that in free agency in the draft, they're going to upgrade their offensive line. Maybe they'll add another skill position player, and they got to get this defense back to the point where it was when they were contending for Super Bowls. Again, it would be interesting to see Russell Wilson go elsewhere. Supposedly a number of teams have called expressing interest. He's got a no-trade clause, so they can't just ship him anywhere. But I just Monday morning, checked in with a guy who's very plugged in with that organization, asked him, hey, has anything changed? He said, no, he's not going anywhere. We will see. Will be interesting to see how this plays out. But for now, I kind of have to agree that, yeah, it makes sense that they get this thing fixed rather than trade him. Another quarterback on the move, though, is Alex Smith of the Washington football team. He and the team have agreed to part ways. He had some interesting comments last week in GQ talking about how he threw a wrench in their plans. And if you remember my interview with Ron Rivera we had on the podcast towards the end of the season, he said, look, Alex really had to beg him for him to consider putting him on the 53. He was planning on opening the season with the PUP list. Alex really wanted to be a part of the roster from the start. Alex forced his way onto the roster, earned a spot, and then, injuries, he stepped up, led them to that run for the playoffs. Now, some people are upset that Washington would move on from him. It makes a lot of sense. They're going to save a ton of cap room, and really, as inspirational a story, I'm not taking anything away from what Alex Smith did for them. Coming back after 2 years and that broken leg, bringing a stability and an inspiration and a veteran leadership, which was important for that young team. However, performance-wise, he was limited. Mobility-wise, production-wise was limited. 8 interceptions, 6 touchdown passes. They were 4-1 with him as a starter. However, they had a fantastic defense. As you saw in the playoffs, Tyler Heinicke, with his mobility, really was able to help open up that offense. I'm not saying Heinicke is the answer. I still think they're going to add another veteran and probably draft someone as well. But it made sense that they would be content to move on. I think Alex wants to go somewhere that he can play. It'll be interesting to see where. He's got ties to Chicago. Maybe they go after him and draft somebody to sit behind him. He's also got ties to Jacksonville. They're going to use the number 1 pick on Trevor Lawrence, but Urban Meyer, who coached Alex Smith in college, maybe he's a good veteran mentor for Lawrence. We will see. Well, that is the leading headlines of the last several days. No combine going on right now, so the league is, they're getting into the talent evaluation, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, with the pro days getting kicked off and underway, and then a few weeks will be free agency. But for now, we're going to sit down with Wyatt Teller and let him tell his story about his ascension, quickly climbing up the ranks of some of the best guards in the NFL. Really fun conversation. He's a fun guy, and we're going to get to it right now. All right, and here we are. I've got a special guest. I've got a special co-host here, special Fauquier County home week edition of the Football Jones podcast. Cleveland Browns offensive lineman Wyatt Teller and my co-host Rhett Teller, big brother, hype man to Wyatt Teller.
Biggest hype man. Good.
Best hype man to have. Thank you for having us, Mike.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we could do this. Give everybody a little bit of background here. So we are from a small county outside the DC area. Some people say Northern Virginia, but Northern Virginia is nothing like Fairfax where we are. We are like out rolling hills, horse farms, cow farms. That's Fauquier County. And I covered Rhett when he was a high school slugger for Liberty High School. He was the big heart and soul of the baseball team. And there was this little barefooted kid always playing in the dirt at these high school baseball games, like some really intense games. And this kid had no interest at all in paying attention to baseball, just digging in the ground in the dirt barefooted. My wife was like, does that kid ever wear shoes? I remember that.
No, there was no shoes. Rhett hadn't hand me down any shoes yet. My foot was 2 inches too small. So usually if shoes didn't fit, so I just walked around barefoot. Faulkner County, there's a lot of cows and corn. It's no problem out there.
Yeah, exactly. And then here we are. He's this big, 6'5", 300 and something, and the highest rated left guard according to Pro Football Focus, in the league after coming off your third season here.
It's been a blessing. I played right guard this past year, but it was you're fine. It's a guard position, right? Left, right guard. It's all the same. But it was that was a big transition actually to start off with left guard. That's what I played my entire career, college wise. I was recruited as a defensive lineman, but I was always my offensive line coach, Tommy Buzzer, we were talking about this earlier, but he literally looked at me and said, "You're going to be an all-pro offensive lineman. Why are you going out for quarterback?" I was like, "Look, I don't know. My dad said to go out for quarterback. Get the heck to offensive line," and it worked out just fine. But I played left guard my entire career, and then this past year was a big transition into right guard. I played a little bit last year, and it wasn't exactly where I needed to be, and I knew that I had to put in way more work than I did the year prior. That's the formula anyway, but I knew that I had to take a next step, and going into camp, the biggest question mark, we had a 10th pick in the draft, left tackle, left guard is all pro, Pro Bowl. Joe Baltonio, our center, is a really great center, smart, talented, paid well. Our right tackle came in, and he was Pro Bowl prior, had a couple of injuries, but came in and had lots of promise. So the biggest question mark was that right guard spot, and I took that I took that personally, as as OJ would say, but it was I took it serious, and I said I'm not going to be the one when everybody's like, oh, there's a big competition at right guard. I was like, you guys think so? I know that this is what I'm going to do. This is my job. This is how I'm going to do it. So that was the biggest thing in my mind to take that next step at right guard, transitioning from left guard. So it's like trying to write cursive the best you can with your left hand if you're right-handed, right? So it's just weird. It's a little different. And then, adversity hit a little bit this year, some ups and downs with injuries. I like to brag about it, but 21 years of football, and I've been injured twice. I've missed games twice in my entire career, and they were 4 weeks apart. So very weird. And both of them were just the weirdest injuries, a calf strain due to a non-contact injury. And then, a block where it just hit the back of my knees, and God willing, it was just a high ankle sprain. So, it was definitely a crazy year, but a good year.
Yeah, a really good year. And it was exciting to see, you do so well. And, coming from small towns, small town USA, there's tons of stories like that. But our small town, nobody else had made it to the NFL, right?
Yeah, there were a couple of guys, I think, in the 70s and 80s, looking back into it, who made it to a couple squads but didn't play. Right. So I was the first drafted. That's that. But the first actual starter in the NFL as well. Yeah. So that's a blessing. There's going to be guys who, especially back in the 70s and 80s with the Redskins love to recruit, Southern or hometown boys. So they get a lot of fuck your kids who shoot for a tryout, and it just didn't work out. But it's been a blessing. We were talking about it earlier. There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of stuff that has to go right. But I mean, it's work ethic too. Like there's times where I had to teach myself how to work. I had to take notes from other guys. Just to better myself. And that was something that, while growing up, I had the perfect example, and, chime in on Rhett. Rhett was one of the best athletes in the county, and you can attest to that. Dude could hit a ball to the rocks at Liberty, and that's pretty far. I remember I threw him a curveball one time. I was 12 years old, and he never let me forget it. I've never thrown him a curveball again. that one landed on the road. So that one we don't talk about, but yeah, no, but yeah, so I had a perfect example and someone who was in my hip pocket and, in my ear and, keep me on the right track, knowing that, he had no second chance, but he was going to let me learn from his, whatever. So I'm thankful for, Rhett, to preface that, but, as well as, it was a lot of luck to get there. And, I moved to offensive line, right? I was a defensive lineman. I thought I was going to be rushing the passer, and now I hate those guys, so it's like, it's kind of funny how that works out, but, I'm blessed to be in this position.
Yeah. So Rhett, you guys, like, your dad's a big guy, Rhett's a big guy. Rhett, what were you? Now you've trimmed down a lot. Now you look like, a model, but like, you were a big guy. How tall are you?
Like 6'3".
6'3", and like even in high school, you were a big guy. You look like
in high school I was a lot bigger than I am now. Yeah, that was because I was working at Sheetz there in Opal, but I was probably about 265, 270 in high school. But if you look back at the Eagles, our Liberty high school team, everybody was big because they were all crossovers from football.
Right.
And so we had a bunch of guys that played both football and baseball. But for me,
Culbertson.
Yeah,
yes.
We had a lot of big dudes. Exactly. Yeah. But from, Justin Matthias, I mean, those guys, they were all big dudes. But for me, when I moved, because we moved out when Wyatt was probably like 5 or 6 years old to Fauquier, because I grew up in Manassas, but it's funny how Wyatt grew up in Fauquier. Yeah. And so when I moved from Brentsville, because I went to high school in Brentsville for the first year and a half, I played football there.
Yeah.
And then when I went to Liberty, it was a whole different ball game. And I knew that I was either going to play both or focus on one. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I got to focus on baseball. And I knew that was my meal ticket to go to the next level. And so I was able to get some scholarship money for baseball too, which was great. But for me, Wyatt got to play multiple sports at Liberty. And I always kind of kicked myself for not playing football there, because I know I probably could have played, maybe not to the level as Wyatt was. And that's a testament to his, work ethic and everything else. But I would have loved to play football at Liberty too.
Yeah. And no, you always had, I remember baseball coaches, some of them, like, it was like a love-hate thing. They were like, this guy acts like he's a football player. He's all rah-rah. He's not respectful. He's too like juiced, amped up. But you guys, like, very competitive family, because didn't your sisters swim competitively, like state?
Yep. So they all won. Yeah. So Grace went to states. Faith swam in high school. Hope also swam in high school. Hope also played volleyball. So did Grace. And so Faith even played a little softball early on too. So yeah, we all played multiple sports. But that was the thing. Like, my mom was a PE teacher for 37 years in Fairfax County, and my dad played football early on at Ferrum. And then he went to Elon and ended up not playing football. He was a cheerleader, believe it or not, because he blew out his knee so many daggone times that he wasn't able to play football anymore. So we always, Wyatt and I, give him a hard time. He's like, hey, dude, you're a big guy, but you were a cheerleader. That's not a bad thing, but we always give him a razz.
His favorite line is, I could get my butt beat on the field, or I could lift skirts on the sidelines. You tell me, boys. And I was like, all right, Dad, I get you. And then he went into the Marine Corps, so we give him an easy time. But he's a great dad. He's just not the athlete.
So obviously, you had all those athletes that you basically were chasing, Wyatt. And when did you figure out that football was your alley? That was going to be your pathway for you?
I think I was 5 years old, and we went to the first practice, and Mom, I can't remember my coach, but my coach, was like, all right, let's see what these kids got. Let's just have them run around and have a good time. And I remember the first practice, I think I broke a kid's sternum. Like, I just went out and speared the kid, and, it didn't have to be taught. It wasn't like, to me, it was a switch. I didn't want to hurt anybody. Right. I just thought, you had the ball, you're my enemy, and I'm going to hit you as hard as I can. Right. And that was just I guess, the competitive mindset. My brother was definitely a big brother, and, put some toughness into me. And, so did my sisters, growing up with 3 girls, it can either turn you into where you want to be like them, or you don't want to be like them at all. And I wanted to be like Rhett, who was already, doing big things and, playing baseball and stuff. So, but to test to Rhett, talking about football, that's how I felt about baseball. I tried. But like, Rhett was just, I think I hit my first home run. My only home runs I ever hit, Rhett was in was at the games. You know what I mean? So it's like I played better because he was there. You know, like I remember he was playing Brentsville one year, and I don't remember, some kid came in throwing sidearm and throwing like 60-mile-per-hour cheese, and I just hit this line drive. You know, the first ball I've ever hit. And Rhett meets me at home plate, like, damn it, yeah, good job. Walks back to this, you know, because he was like, yeah, good job, but you know, you just hit a dinger.
That's what we do.
Yeah, but you know, so it's like Rhett wishes, you know, he tried out for football, and I wish I, you know, took baseball a little serious. You know, maybe could have done both at college, but probably not. But no, it's been a blessing. You know, we definitely got our athletic ability from mom, and you know, we've realized that more and more. My he's tough as nails now. I don't want to, you know, misplace that, but he's definitely the coddling and loving one. After a game, he's like, hey, you played so great. My mom's like, hey, on that second down, I saw you miss that block. What happened there? It's like, what? Mom, how did you notice that? You know, she doesn't talk to anybody. She's focused in. Dad's the cheerleader. He's talking, having a good time. So
yeah,
it's funny to see.
Sit next to her during the games, man. Holy heck!
Shut up, Rhett. I'm focused.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, mom is if it isn't Rhett or my fiance, it's probably mom is the biggest fan. She makes sure she watches every little bit.
Good deal. So you were a defensive lineman, then you go to Virginia Tech, and that's when you switched to offensive line. What was that transition like?
Yeah, so I mean, I've talked about this before, but you know, that was really my first true adversity, right? You know, when I came in there, I was, I can't exactly remember, but I was probably one of the highest rated defensive linemen. I think Tim Settle came in, and I think he was a 5-star. So he took that. He's a great player. So Think him that. But I was the highest rated defensive lineman to come into Tech, I think, at that point. And within 3 months, you know, we have, I think 6 offensive linemen 2 weeks prior going into the Alabama game. We had a bunch of injuries, I think like 3 kids like quit or something like that. We literally had 6 offensive linemen. So if 2 guys go down, we got to put a tight end in there. So they were like, so I go up to coach Grimes, Jeff Grimes. And I was like, coach, you know, got offers. I actually remember talking to you when he was at Auburn. He gave me an offer for offensive line. Just so happens now he's at Virginia Tech, and easy choice. I went up to him. I was like, hey, Coach Grimes, you know, I'm willing to play offensive line, you know, thinking that I was going to move back to defense. No, they had a plan the entire time I was getting recruited, but no, it was a blessing. And truly, you know, looking back on it, that was a huge part where I thought this was the worst thing happening to me. I'm moving to offensive line. I hate offensive linemen. And now it's like, hell yeah. Offensive linemen are so much better than and I'm not saying like defensive linemen are great people, but you know what I mean? Like defensive linemen are trying to go out there and hurt your quarterback every play. And, you know, offensive linemen are just a pure unit who are trying to play together and, you know, protect other people. That's literally their job. So it is a blessing to understand that, and now to take that in stride and be proud of that. But yeah, I remember traveling to that Alabama game. You know, I wore real tight sleeves, and I wore elbow sleeves and bands and all this different stuff, thinking I was so cool. You know, then I think 7 games, or I think I redshirted that year. And then
You're
later
also
on,
probably about 270 pounds.
Yeah. So I came in at 245, and 6 months later in December, I was 295. So Mike Gentry had taken me under his wing, and that's why he's a god amongst, you know, men. But he is the best. He's someone who, when I came into Virginia Tech, it was Frank Beamer, Bud Foster, and, you know, Coach Gentry. Those were the 3 guys. You know, those were the guys that, you know, I thought were everything. By the time I leave, no one, I think Bud was the only one who's still there, and Bud still touches me to this day, and he's an amazing dude. But, you know, he recruited me. So like when he said, hey, this is a relationship for life, he meant that. And he still, you know, wishes Rhett happy birthday. My mom and dad, happy birthday on Facebook. Like and my fiance, happy birthday on their birthday. So, you know, he's an amazing dude, and he's, you know, truly a coach and a friend for life. But yeah, so when I was getting recruited, I came in, I was 245 defensive lineman, thinking I was going to rush the edge as a big white boy, but that didn't work out. I was not JJ Watt. I was Wyatt Teller, and I moved to go block JJ Watt. So it all worked out, and it was a blessing. You know, it was just definitely adversity.
Now you are very like energetic and happy-go-lucky. You know, Rhett, do you remember those times with adversity? Did you have to pick him up, or did he ever talk about being frustrated? Was he down at all?
Yeah, I mean, he had some tough times in college. You know, he was there was a lot of adversity he faced in college with having multiple different offensive line coaches. I mean, I think he had 3 different offensive line coaches, and as you're trying to learn that position, it's really hard to get rapport with a coach when the next year he's gone. And so you have so many different types of coaching styles, and I'm sure he could speak to it. But yeah, I talked to him a lot. And I was lucky enough to, in my role now, actually it's a different role that I was in, but the company I was working for now is called GPRS. And we actually had a project down at Virginia Tech to build or, come in before they built in their brand new indoor. So I actually was able to come down his redshirt freshman year and spend a couple of nights down there and live vicariously through him as an old, brother. People probably thought, they invited their dad to the party. But at that point, I was like, man, this is really cool. Like Wyatt is probably 19 years old. And at the time, I was probably like 29, 30 years old as that older guy at a college party. But it was really cool to see, Wyatt in his element and still, learning that position and getting better every single day. And I got to go watch practice. And that's something that, I'll always remember. And I think that was really cool that I was able to do that because I was living in Delaware at the time. And it was like a 6-hour trip down there. I would have never been able to experience that other than having a job there, which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then you fast forward, and I kind of lost track of where you were a little bit. And we get to the Senior Bowl, and I run into, and I'm like, whoa, there, here he is,
Yeah.
Here you are,
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Yeah, so we just you were doing different things. You were also moving up the ladder to, different positions you were going through, and you kind of left Fauquier County.
Yeah.
And then I think you might have even done a story on me when I was playing professional baseball, if I'm right. But yeah. So that, I mean, I played a couple years here and there, but you kind of kept up with me through then. And then we kind of just went different ways, and you kind of went that way and I went this way. And then, I randomly saw you at the Senior Bowl, and I'm like, I'm here for Wyatt, that little guy out there, number 57. And you're like, yeah, I know who he is. And so I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And Andy was there, Wyatt's agent.
Right.
And so that was a cool moment, a full circle moment at that point that I was like, man, I used to, cover me, and I was small potatoes in comparison, but.
and then so you get drafted to Buffalo, and obviously you think you're going to be somewhere for a long time. Then you get traded to the Browns. What was those first 2 years like for you when you're trying to get immersed into a new place, a new league, level of play, and then you're traded, and just what was that like, Wyatt?
Yeah, no, it was definitely more adversity, right? But yeah, it was definitely weird. It was a blessing, first of all, to be drafted. Like I said, it was the first time anybody has been drafted from Fauquier County, and I was a great class with at Virginia Tech. Where I think like out of the 15 guys who came in, I think 8 of them got drafted or went to the NFL, which is an absolute blessing. So it was awesome, and it was great that Buffalo gave me my opportunity. When you're going through those rookie meetings and everything like that, you learn to love the city. It's a blue collar city, tough mentality, losing system, but they don't care. There's nothing else. No offense to Buffalo, but there's not much else going on. They love their Bills. So you learn to love the fans, and I learned the business aspect of it real fast. I went in, I didn't have as a rookie, I was trying to replace Richie Incognito, which, I think one day I could be there, but not year 13 versus rookie year Wyatt. I think that's it's a little bit of a naive assumption to think that I could take that step. Plus, we had, I came in with Josh, rookie quarterback, and Tremaine from Virginia Tech. So rookie linebacker. McDermott loved his Hokies, but, I think that, when I made that transition, we didn't have the success, and he went from a playoff team to a non-playoff team. And the next year after I got traded, they went to the playoffs again. So, and then been to the playoffs this past year. So in his mind, I don't know if it was, everybody blamed it on the offensive line, but there was a scapegoat. And I think that I got taken down with that. Sent over to Cleveland. At that point, Cleveland had all the hype in the world. It was at the end of the fall preseason camp. So it was, I was going to a great team, definitely not bare cupboards. They had they had Jarvis, they had Bake, they had, great offensive linemen, but just not all the pieces. And, this offseason, again, I didn't play to the level I wanted to, learning if you could see the playbook we have, it's a lot. Not making an excuse, but anybody who's played in the NFL knows that, it's not just X's and O's. It's a lot of verbiage. It's a lot of understanding. It's a lot of how coach wants it. I mean, there's some things that, that's the biggest thing I learned with Coach Callahan is Coach Callahan has a way of doing things. And if you follow, you can take the bull by the horns. If you don't, it's your choice. If you're a good enough player to not have to listen, better luck to you, because I don't know anybody who can't take something from Coach Callahan or Coach Campy for that, Matt, when I first came here. But yeah, so Coach Callahan came in. I knew that was someone who Andy, my agent, had always been, Wyatt, you need to get with Bill. Bill is going to get you better. So I took that. I said, this is a sign from God. I'm going to take every full advantage of it. I don't care if he's the meanest guy in the world. I'm going to listen to something he says, and I'm going to take everything with a grain of salt, knowing that, or not everything, take what he says, if it's mean, to a grain of salt and just get better. Right. And I'm going to let my work talk to me. And, I remember during camp, Coach Callahan was, a little worried, right? Because he didn't know if I could be trusted on the field. And I come out and I start playing, as one of the best guards in the league. And I gained so much trust from him. He trusted me. He, stopped not picking, but I don't know how to explain it. Like,
he's just very demanding.
A young guy.
Yeah. Very, like for people who don't know, and I've seen his practice when he was in Washington, but like they'll have their regular offensive practice, but then after practice is over, he's got his offensive lineman out there on the field for another, 20, 30, 40 minutes, drilling them the same drills they've been doing, and almost like going over all the mistakes that they did. I mean, guys like Trent Williams, who is like a perennial Pro Bowler, Bill Callahan would rip him down to shreds, like, because he didn't hit something. I mean, so really good guy once you have his trust, but he is very, very, very demanding.
Exactly. And I say that I have his trust. It's still going to take many years to gain Bill Callahan's trust. But I showed him that I listen, and I'm coachable, and I can take whatever you say, and I can get down to the bare bones of what you're trying to say and write that down. Not, Wyatt, do you not have any pride? Do you not care? And then you need to take this step, right? Okay, take that out of there and take this step, right? Like, and I've learned to do that. You have to be successful with Bill. You have to understand that he's not, to him, it's a pride thing. So like, if you're not playing well, to him, it's that you're not taking it serious. And, you could be taking it serious. You're just in a bad spot. And he goes, okay, well, get that out of your head. We're in football. It's like, all right. So he's a great coach. He's someone that, as soon as he started coaching us all those things, for example, he wasn't just X's and O's. Here's zone left and zone right. It's here's how to be a pro. Here's 10 tips, and study these 10 tips on how to be a pro. But
what are some of those tips?
Yeah. So like showing up early, coming to every day that you do show up early, that you come to work, right? Understanding that it's the team that comes together, right? So it's like, I could go down and read you all of them. They're amazing. And he has like a 3-paragraph explanation of each thing. And it's just a sentence and then a 3-paragraph explanation of guys who've done it right and guys who've done it wrong. Or usually he doesn't pull out guys who've done it wrong, but you say, this is a guy who does it right. And it's a perennial Pro Bowler. You know what I mean? Like, I think that like he knew that I had the ability, but it was getting the right mindset behind it. And I think that that's where Coach Callahan is different than anybody I've been with is, it's not just like hoopla. It's no, these are things after 24 years in the NFL, I can say pros have and losers don't. And it's like, well, damn, that's real. I can follow these 10 lists. And even if I don't follow all 10 at the same time, I can get better at 1. All right. Get better at 2, get better at 3. And then as week 4 runs around, number 5 is where I needed to get better at, right? It's funny how it all works out. As you start getting through it, you start to grow as a mentality that I'm going to outwork. And we were talking about it earlier. you work so hard for an opportunity at success, right? Good works and bad works happen to the righteous and the wicked. So I'm not trying to make this into, too spiritual or too religious, but like, it's got to be the understanding of the work just gives you a chance. And I think that that's where a lot of kids these days is, oh, we're not winning and we're working our butts off. Well, it's going to take time. Sometimes that guy you're going against, right, is Tom Brady. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you're playing. He's going to find a hole. He's going to find a way, right? When we were playing, ACC championship, I remember we were playing Clemson all the way down to the line. We were playing as hard as we could, and they were just 7 dudes rotating at,
right.
left D tackle, and you're like, all right, I'm dead tired, and this guy's juiced up because they had the depth. So it just gives you an opportunity, and we still, fought them all the way to the end. They won. Glory goes to them. But it's that understanding of, I didn't feel like a loser after that game. That was where where I came in at Virginia Tech. That's where I wanted to leave.
Right.
And it sucks that I couldn't have done it my senior year. That was the works all along. Was I put in all that work throughout the beginning as a D tackle moving to offensive line for this opportunity. So and now seeing that to this, right? Yeah. This is why I've worked so hard, and your finish line. I know it sounds cliche, but your finish line is always moving, right? It's a path. You see the finish line, keep laughing, because that finish line is so far away. You have no idea. So it's crazy. It's a long path, but it's a blessing.
Now, and that the other thing about this is, when you're talking about, that is a city that you're in where they have been desperately craving a winner for a long time. And for you guys to finally get to the playoffs is huge, but I know you guys don't want to just get to the playoffs. You guys want more. You had an amazing season, like we said, top rated, all pro guard, but you don't want just that. So what do you do this off season? What do you guys, even as a team, do to take a next step next year, individually and collectively?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the best question that would be for Coach, but I truly think that doing my 111, and that's kind of what I realized last year was, I can work, I can do all these things, but if I'm trying to do too much, then I can't focus on my job. Mm-hmm. So this past year, right, it was, what's my 111? What can I do this play, and pray and trust that the other 10 are doing it the right way too? Because you don't want to be the one that stops a long touchdown, right? So it's like, for me, and I think that the difference from when I was in and when I wasn't was, in my mind, if I needed to push you one more inch to give Nick that, you need to give Nick a hole this big, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah. If you give him that inch, he's gonna make you right. And that's the power that lies within, those guys in the backfield making me look better. Yeah, I had a good year, but they made me look a lot better. Baker was, by the end of the year, he was getting the ball out by 2 seconds. He made us look good. Where the offensive line, and we're in an offensive line friendly system. So I'm blessed, right? That's the point that I want to make. But I truly believe we were learning the offense last year. We didn't even have a season to learn the offense. And I guess defenses too, that we were playing. Maybe we picked it up a little faster than other defense and whatever. But I truly think that, we need to understand that last year's success has nothing to do with this year's success. Right. That everything we did last year has to be replicated and more, because now everybody else is like, oh, Cleveland can play now. So now it's all right. Okay. Now it's not, we're looking past Cleveland. It's Cleveland could whoop our ass. We gotta come out fighting. Right. So now we got a target on our back, and that's a good feeling.
So, okay. So what do you focus on? With you yourself, what are you focusing on? I know you're working hard, you're studying, but so give me like 3 things that this off season that you're focusing on to make Wyatt Teller better.
I feel like I'm in my exit interview. Well, with Coach, I was talking about hand usage, hand fightage, and hand replacement. So like hands. I think that everybody who's watched me play knows when I get my hands on someone, it's not going to end up well either for them, and it's probably going to end up really well for a running back, right? So it's like, that's where I'm trying to understand that, if my hand's out of position, I'm not going to get a holding call. I'm going to replace it into the right position, tuck my elbow, and have my hand outside to where you see perfect placement, right? Where you don't see this guy hugging people. You see tight elbows. All you see is 77. You don't see anything else, right? That's what you want to see. So things that I need to fix on. And, like I said, like I took a step last year, but it's a long road. I know that there's so much I have to get better at. Technique and fundamentals of what we're learning, right? So it's like, as well as knowing what everybody else is doing technique wise and fundamentals, so I can help them and they can help me. So it's like understanding backside zones. That's a part of football that has been neglected because it's all about front side. If you get enough push, if you get reach, the running back will go outside. That's not how it is. It's all about cutback lanes. So understanding the backside is 10 times more important than the front side. Knowing that if I get my guy 10 yards past the point, Nick will make me right. Kareem will make me right, and they will get at least 7, at least 3. Hit me in the back for at least 3, right? We can survive another down. So understanding the technique and fundamentals of the line, I truly think that, health-wise, you can't control that.
Right.
But I know that this year was a weird year. This was a year that we were in the facility once a week, out of the facility 3 times a week, sometimes in the facility 5 days, sometimes out of the facility all 5 days. So taking care of your body, and as much as I love my apartment, I don't have a sauna and a hot tub and a cold tub and, trainers. My fiance is amazing. She has great hands, but she doesn't know all the muscles and the ligaments and all jokes aside, it's understanding recovery is a huge part of it and a huge aspect. So staying healthy. I can't control that. I can pray as much as I want, but taking care of my body, that's a huge part. But I truly think hand usage, right? Understanding technique and fundamentals, and reading defenses. If you can do that, offensive line's fun.
Man, well, this has been great. I feel like we could go on all day long. We're gonna have to hit you again, like on a bye week or something like that in the season. I really appreciate that you were able to make some time during the off season. You're about to get married and all that stuff. And Rhett, I really appreciate you making this thing happen there so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, yeah. Mike, you do know our middle name is Story, right?
Is Story?
Yeah, Rhett Storyteller and Wyatt Storyteller. So I didn't know if you knew that. It's
definitely
that's why we can talk all day. But it was awesome, Mike. Thank you so much, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
All right, thank you so much to Wyatt Teller and to Rhett Teller. I'm really happy for him. It's so funny every time I see him. He still looks like that little kid, like in the eyes, that little kid that I remember running around at baseball games. But he's obviously now very massive. But great kid, hard worker, great family. You like to see good people do well. And so every time I watch the Browns, I'm looking for number 77 and seeing how he's doing on his assignments, and it's been fun to watch. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks so much for listening. I will be back next week. Again, you can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. Do me a favor, if you're not already, subscribe, download, leave me a review and a rating, and please share the podcast with a friend. And I'll talk to you guys again next time.